Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave. This is episode 1492B, and today's date is February 7th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The World as We Know It is About to Change. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Rob Kirby. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So if you go over to YouTube and you type in X22 Report Spotlight, you can view and listen to the interview there, or you can come over to the X22Report.com or NewSentinel.com websites. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You can play the interview right on the site, or you can go to Steemit. That is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we can see the cabal, the deep state, they're in trouble because, like we said in the past, more information is going to continually come out. There are going to be facts. There's going to be documents. They're going to follow the path of the currency that they've been using to pay this all off with. They're going to be following the documentation, and more of this information is going to be coming out. And we see that this is what is happening right now. Now, we see a new declassified document from the Senate Judiciary Committee. Well, it confirms that the FBI relied heavily on an unverified dossier in order to obtain FISA surveillance warrants on a one-time Trump advisor, Carter Page. And unredacted portions of the document reveal the FBI's extensive involvement with the creator of the dossier, former UK spy Christopher Steele, who went dark. Despite Steele lying to the FBI, which led to the agency ending their relationship, they still used his unverified memo and vouched for his reputation to obtain the FISA warrant. The unredacted memo clarifies that the FBI notified the FISA court of the dossier political origins to a vaguely limited extent. The FBI has withheld the notes from their meeting with Steele. Steele received information for an unpublished second dossier from the Obama State Department led by John Kerry at the time. Much of the information in this Grassley memo matches the contents of the Nunes memo released by the House Intelligence Committee last Friday. Now, a largely unredacted version of a criminal referral made against Fusion GPS operative Christopher Steele reveals several new bombshells and confirms that the FBI heavily relied on the unverified dossier created by Steele, and also, along with that, with a Yahoo News article which they used with Steele's information to obtain a FISA surveillance warrant. And we see right now it's starting to fall apart. And the declassified Grassley memo, this also clears up a dispute over the extent to which the FBI notified the FISA court that the Steele dossier was an opposition research document. The Nunes memo released last Friday from the House Intelligence Committee states that neither the initial application in October 2016 nor any of the renewals disclose or reference the role of the DNC Clinton campaign or any party campaign funding Steele's efforts, even though the political origins of the Steele dossier were then known to the senior and FBI officials. Ranking House Intel Committee Democrat Adam Schiff disputed that the FISA court wasn't notified of the dossier political origins, calling it inaccurate and stating that the court was aware there was a likely political motivation behind the Steele dossier. Now, this is from the Grassley memo. FBI noted to a vaguely limited extent the political origins of the dossier. In footnote 8, the FBI stated that the dossier information was compiled pursuant to the direction of a law firm who had hired an identified U.S. person, now known as Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS. The Grassley memo also notes that the FBI never told the FISA court that Mr. Steele was desperate to see that Mr. Trump was not elected to become president, as told to the FBI by the Department of Justice official Bruce Orr, who was demoted for failing to disclose that he met with Fusion GPS and Steele. To sum up all of this, FBI agents used an unverified dossier from an anti-Trump opposition research firm, Fusion GPS, which commissioned an anti-Trump former British spy to assemble and anti-Trump memos using high-level Kremlin officials as sources. To top it off, Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid for the entire thing. Everything is starting to come together now. And we can see that there's more information coming out from Strzok and Page, their text messages. We see there's a big reveal that Obama, well, he appears to be in the loop in all of this. He wanted to know what everyone was doing. And this was done by using the spying apparatus. Now, think about this. We knew this before, that the spying that goes on is not to spy on foreign entities, maybe a small percentage, but the spying apparatus was developed to keep an eye on government officials, judges, anyone else, and the American people, to see what everyone is up to. We see right now General Mike Flynn's lawyers, they're calling for their case to be dismissed over the corrupt FBI. The whole thing is starting to crumble and it's starting to fall apart. Even though the corporate media is out there, and they're never ever going to admit to this. They're never going to say, yes, the whole thing was made up, the whole thing was created by the corrupt FBI, by Hillary Clinton. We're never going to hear that. So get that out of your mind right now. What needs to be done right now is they need to continually push fact with fact with fact and truth. Because what happens is, as you continually do this, they can't throw the propaganda at it. Because it can stand up to all the propaganda. Yes, they can use emotional propaganda. They can call people names. They can do all that kind of stuff. They can try to find, different pictures or call Trump or anyone else like racist or anything like that. But again, that's all emotional stuff. It's not real. And we can see already that Schiff, he was pranked by those two Russian comedians, Vovan and Lexus. They called him back in April 10, 2017, saying that they had naked pictures of Trump, and he kind of fell for it. Take a listen.
Hi, all right. I'm going to put Mr. Schiff on the phone, and then I guess are you going to transfer him to Mr. Parubi?
Yes, of course.
Great, thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Schiff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
I know that you work for investigation regarding Trump and Russian government.
Yes.
We know some important information about that.
And that is documented as well in materials you want to provide to us?
Yes, could I explain you where we are?
Yes, of course. But, again, I would just caution that our Russian friends may be listening to the conversation, so I wouldn't share anything over the phone that you don't want them to hear.
No, I don't think that it will impact on our investigation.
Yes. Well, please, go ahead then.
In November 2013, Mr. Trump visited Moscow. He visited competition Miss Universe, and there he met with the Russian journalist and celebrity Ksenia Sobchak.
I'm sorry, can you explain that again? While he was in Moscow in November 2013, he met with a journalist and...
Well, she's poor journalist, but anyway, she became famous because of Putin is her godfather.
Okay, Putin is godfather. Okay.
She also known as a person who provide girls for escort for oligarchs, and she met with Trump and she brought him our Russian girl celebrity Olga Buzova, who also known as a person with a strange reputation.
Olga, and how do you spell her name?
Olga Buzova.
Buzova.
Yes.
Olga Buzova is a friend of the reporter Sobchak?
Yes, she's a friend of reporter and I think the special agent of Russian Secret Service, Ksenia Sobchak.
That Sobchak is or Olga is?
No, Sobchak is Ksenia.
Okay, and so Buzova met with Trump in New York at some point after the 2013 Miss Universe
Yes.
pageant.
Absolutely, and she got compromising materials on Trump after their short relations.
Okay, and what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
Okay. And so Putin was made aware of the availability of the compromising material?
Yes, of course, Buzova shared those materials with Sobchak, and Sobchak shares those materials with Putin because she's a goddaughter of Putin, and Putin decided to press on Trump.
And the materials that you can provide to the committee or to the FBI, would they corroborate this allegation?
Sure, of course. When they were in Ukraine, we got their conversation by the phone where they discussed those compromising materials. We are ready to provide it to FBI.
So you have recordings of both Sobchak and Buseva where they're discussing the compromising material on Mr. Trump?
Absolutely. And we also know who was a mediator between Trump and Russian government, who met with ex-advisor of Trump, Mr. Flynn. It was a Russian singer, very famous singer, Arkady Ukupnik, who met with Mr. Flynn on Brighton Beach in Brooklyn in a special Russian cafe, Langeron.
What's the name of the cafe?
Langeron.
Langeron?
Yes, it's on the Brighton Beach.
Okay. And
it's a special. It's a Russian district in Brooklyn.
And do you know what was discussed?
They discussed many things, but the most interesting thing is they used a special password before their meetings. When they met each other, they said weather is good on Deribasovskaya.
Weather
it rains.
Is good.
Yeah.
In where?
Weather is good on Deribasovskaya. There is a name of a street in Odessa.
Did you hear?
Yes, I did. So it's a street in Odessa.
Yes.
And the code word is weather is good on Deribasta?
Deribasovskaya. Deribasovskaya.
Deribasovskaya. Okay. And I'll have my staff follow up to get spellings and more details on
yes.
That. And the second part of their password was it rains again on Brighton Beach.
It rains again on Brighton Beach.
Yes.
On that meeting, Ukupnik told Flynn that all those compromising materials will never be released if Trump will cancel all Russian sanctions.
Okay. Well, obviously, we would welcome a chance to get copies of those recordings. So we will try to work with the FBI to figure out, along with your staff, how we can obtain copies of those.
Of course, we will provide you all our copies of all our materials, but I also would like to let you know that Sobchak and Buzova will pretty soon visit our country, and we could read them and deliver them to your embassy, and we also could extradite them to your country, and you can put them to your special jail, Guantanamo.
Well, I'll be in touch with the FBI about this, and we'll make arrangements with your staff. I think it probably would be best to provide these materials to both our committee and to the FBI. And so we'll make arrangements between my staff and yours on how to facilitate that. And we'll also obviously let the FBI know about Buseva and Sobchak's planned travel to Ukraine.
I also advise you to check all Sobchak's visits in the US, because she was in the US very often, and just to check what she did there actually. And I also would like to look at Russian cafe on Brighton Beach, Langeron, and especially on their head of Russian mafia, Uncle Misha.
Uncle Misha? And
yes.
He's in Brighton Beach?
Yes, he's the head of Russian mafia, and he's located on that restaurant on Brighton Beach.
Okay.
I just want to advise you just look at them, please.
Alrighty. Good. This is very helpful. I appreciate it. Anything else you wanted to add today?
Well, I hope that my information will be useful for you and your committee, and I also would like to advise you when you or your colleagues will meet Mr. Trump. I advise you to tell him first part of the password on the weather is good on Deribasovskaya, and look how his face will change the color.
And so those passwords were used with Mr. Trump?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We will be back in touch with you through our staff to make arrangements to obtain these materials for our committee and for the FBI. And I appreciate you reaching out to us.
Well, let's be in touch, and I will wait for your response from FBI.
Excellent. I'll have them follow up as soon as possible. And I thank you again.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And what's amazing about all of this is they're making all of this stuff. If they hear any information, they just go with it. There's no research. There's no investigation. There's no proof. There's nothing. And they just want to put this stuff out there, just like with Russian collusion and all this stuff. The corporate news organizations, if they were truly a news organization, they would have investigated. They would have made sure that this was on the up and up. They would have followed the currency. They would have followed the facts. They would have followed where this all came from. But again, you can see what they do is they hand out propaganda. They receive it from the intelligence agencies. They hand it to the public. This is what we've been told. This is what we're telling the public, because they're trying to direct the narrative of the story. And once again, it's starting to fall apart. Now, Sergei Lavrov is out there, and he's talking about Syria. And he's out there saying that the U.S. appears to be aiming at dividing Syria. Now, Russia is just coming out and saying this, saying that everything that we were told under the Obama administration, where, we're just in there to get rid of the Islamic State. That's all we're there for. Nothing else. Russia is out there right now saying that their agenda is to split up Syria, which we knew from the beginning. This is why they went to the Kurd area. This is why they were building bases. This is why they were placing troops in this area, because they really wanted to divide. And this was from the think tank where we said that they wanted to break the Middle East up into Kurd. They wanted to break it up into Sunni. They wanted to break it up into Shia, break it up into Alawite. And they wanted to separate the Middle East and control the Middle East. And what we're seeing right now is the cabal, the deep state, they are still within the Kurdish territory. They're still pushing their goal. They haven't stopped. And they're going to continue on by trying to push their goal. And I think the Turkish operation in there, and they're working very closely with Russia, is to push them out of this area. That's the whole push right now, is trying to get them out. And it's very, very difficult, because we see that we have the U.S. president, we still have deep state operatives within the government, within the Pentagon, within the intelligence agencies, and there's a clash between the two. And everyone thinks, well, no, he could tell them what they do. Well, if that is true, then he can stop everything that's being reported and fed to the corporate media. If that's true, he can stop everything that's being done with Schiff and the rest. If that's true, all of this would have been stopped. But as you can see, it's a slow-moving process. Think about what has been done right now. Now, everyone's saying that, he's behind splitting up Syria. Really? Then why did he stop the funding to the Kurds, to the Kurdish army? Why didn't he back the operation with the Islamic State? Because at the time, the Islamic State had a lot of the land in Syria. He could have funded covertly more of the weapons, more of the funds over to the Islamic State to make huge pushes in Syria. Could have funded the moderate rebels. Actually, after bombing the base in Syria, this was a perfect opportunity to maybe even send troops in at this time to basically hold the Kurdish area and separate it at this time. Why did he remove the funding? Why did he wait all this time for Russia to remove the Islamic State from this area? And two, why did he wait for the Iraqi soldiers to remove the Islamic State from Iraq? It doesn't make sense. Watch the actions. Watch what is being done. Why did he say Syria is a sovereign nation? Assad is the leader. He's letting the world know this is what he's trying to do. On the other hand, the deep state, the cabal, they have different plans. Their plan is to separate the Middle East, to divide the Middle East up into different sections. This has always been their plan. Nothing's changed. And if he really wanted this to happen, he would increase the funds to the Kurdish army. He wouldn't remove it. And he wouldn't say, oh, we're stopping delivery of weapons to this area. It wouldn't make any sense of why he would do this if he's actually trying to divide the country. This is a deep state plan. This is the cabal's plan. And we can see right now, Lavrov is out there saying that this, and he's telling the world, this is what the U.S. is up to. The U.S. lied, and this is the deep state, the cabal, lied to Russia, to the rest of the world, by telling us they're in Syria to remove the Islamic State. If that is true, the Islamic State is gone. Why are they still there? And now he's pointing it out. Their goal was never to remove the Islamic State. Their goal was to divide Syria. Now, Lavrov said something very, very interesting. And what he's saying is that the world is about to change. He said the world is leaving the Western domination era and entering an era of multipolarity. And he's saying that the power of the U.S. to control everything is going to be split up amongst others who are going to control what is going on. And what he's saying is that the power of the deep state, the cabal, where they're able to sanction, where they're able to use force through the military to control the world, everything is about to change. The power is shifting right now. And the world that we know today is about to change. Just like the Soviet Union, their world completely changed. The whole thing collapsed. Countries were born out of the Soviet Union, and everything was restructured. The same thing is happening today. The world is about to change. The United States, the deep state, the cabal, they will no longer push their agenda across the world. It's going to be split up. And we're going to see different countries push peace, push economic deals instead of war, instead of trying to make countries bend a knee to the deep state and the cabal. So we see that everything is about to change. And the world that we know today is not going to be the same. The life that we live today is going to change. It changed with the Soviet Union. It changed in many different countries when they were the reserve currency of the world. And we're going to see it change once again. It is time. We can see that countries are rejecting the dollar. Countries are looking for alternatives to the dollar. And once these countries continue on this pace and it accelerates, the cabal, the deep state, they lose their power. The deep state, the cabal, they can lose their power by cutting off their funding. How do you cut off their funding? You get rid of their funding system. What is that? It's the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is intertwined with the deep state cabal. They get their funding from there. Now, of course, it's not directly put into their hands. They do it indirectly. Why do you think there's $21 trillion missing, unaccounted for? And if you cut off their funding, guess what? The deep state, the cabal, they disappear. Just like the Islamic State. Russia came in, and what did they do? They cut off their funding. They destroyed the oil convoys where they were stealing oil from Syria, bringing it into Turkey and having it sold off around the world. Once Russia came in and destroyed this entire oil black market system, the Islamic State lost their funding. They weren't making money anymore. Once the funding was stopped from the poppy fields and in Afghanistan from the intelligence agencies, the Islamic State lost their funding. Once Trump came in and stopped the funding to the moderate rebels, to the Kurd army, the funding was stopped. When he closed down the routes from Pakistan, the Islamic State funding was stopped. When the borders were closed between Iraq and Syria took charge and Iraq took charge, and Lebanon and Syria, the funding stopped. So you can see this is what is being done right now. The funding is going to be cut off from the deep state, the cabal. And once that happens, and this is the play they're going to make, they're going to try to get rid of the central banking system. Once they do that, or they take control of the central banking system, they will no longer get the funding. They will no longer be able to siphon that money, launder that money from one department to another, someplace else, and then it goes missing. So you can see everything is in motion right now. The deep state is very worried, very nervous. The propaganda, I do believe, is not working whatsoever, because here come all the facts. Here comes the nuts and bolts of the information, and this is why we might see an event. We might see them try to pull something to send their message that you can't stop us. And Q has warned us of a major false flag, and he did that in all caps. And it could happen anywhere at any time. We have the Olympics coming up starting this Friday, and I wouldn't be surprised if something happens. Maybe it won't, maybe it will. But we can see that, or it might happen someplace we didn't even think of, because this is normally how it works. We point out all these different areas, and all of a sudden we see it appear someplace else that we didn't even think of. But we know something's coming. If we had a crystal ball, it'd be a lot easier, but we don't have that. But we know there's something major in the works, because they have to distract from all this. And they can't have a small little event. They need something much, much larger. They need something that will clog the news feeds so people forget about what happened, so they don't return to it. So it's not something that has to be there for a couple days. It has to be there for weeks and weeks on end. And this is what we're expecting to happen. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.